May 14, 1944. In the small Hungarian town of Munkacs, a 16-year-old girl named Edith Eger stands by a window, watching the spring sun illuminate the dust motes dancing in her living room. For years, the horrors of the Second World War had felt like a distant thunder, terrifying, but muffled by the borders of Hungary. While the rest of Europe's Jewish population had already been swallowed by the dark machinery of the Third Reich, the Hungarian community remained the last great remnant, nearly 800,000 strong. But on this morning, the silence is broken by the heavy thud of boots on floorboards. Hungarian gendarmes, acting under frantic, newfound direction of Adolf Eichmann, enter the home. There is no grand trial, no legal defense. There is only the order to pack a single small bag and the cold realization that the world Edith knew has ceased to exist. To the high command in Berlin, the Hungarian action was a logistical challenge, a race against time. By the spring of 1944, the Red Army was surging from the east, and the Allies were preparing to storm the beaches of Normandy. The war was lost, yet for the architects of the final solution, this only added a sense of ghoulish urgency. They did not want to win the war as much as they wanted to finish a massacre. As Edith and her family are marched toward the railway sidings, they are pushed into cattle cars, so crowded that the air becomes a luxury. The doors are slid shut and bolted from the outside, plunging them into a darkness that smells of cedar, sweat, and terror. For 3 days, the train rattles through the beautiful Carpathian countryside, passing idyllic villages where life seems to continue as normal. Inside the cars, the passengers whisper of resettlement and labor camps. They cling to the hope that their humanity still holds value to their captors. They do not know that at the end of these tracks lies a place designed to strip that humanity away in seconds. They do not know that as they travel north, a specialized ramp has just been completed inside a fortress of barbed wire, built specifically to welcome them. May 17, 1944. The screech of metal on metal echoes across the marshy plains of Upper Silesia as the transport finally jerks to a halt. For Edith and the thousands packed into the stifling darkness of the wagons, the silence that follows is more terrifying than the movement. Then, the bolts are thrown back. The doors slide open to reveal a world bleached of color. This is the Juden ramp, the sprawling unloading platform situated between the main Auschwitz camp and the specialized killing center of Birkenau. The air that rushes in is not the fresh mountain breeze of Hungary. It is heavy, oily, and carries a sweet, sickening stench that clings to the back of the throat. SS guards, their uniforms crisp and their German shepherds straining at their leashes, scream orders, Alles raus, schnell, everything out, fast. The scene is one of calculated chaos. Families, blinded by the sudden glare of the floodlights and weakened by 3 days without water, are pushed and prodded into lines. Men to one side, women and children to the other. In this moment of separation, the air is filled with the frantic cries of mothers reaching for sons, and husbands looking back at wives for what will be the final time. Standing at the center of this human storm is a man who exudes a chilling, detached calm. Dr. Josef Mengele, dressed in white gloves and holding a riding crop, begins the selection. It is a rhythmic, almost musical movement of his thumb. To the left, to the right. For Edith, the moment is a blur of motion. When she reaches the front of the line with her mother, Mengele asks a simple, seemingly innocent question. Is this your mother or your sister? Thinking she is protecting her, Edith replies, My mother. With a flick of his wrist, Mengele sends the elder woman to the left. Edith is pushed to the right. She does not know it yet, but that single gesture has just decided the fate of her soul. The line to the left is moving toward a brick structure with a high chimney, where the smoke has already begun to stain the afternoon sky. The line to the right is moving toward the sauna, where they will be stripped, shaved, and tattooed, transformed from human beings into numbers in the ledger of a dying empire. While Edith is being marched toward the barracks, the line to the left, the one containing her mother, the elderly, and the children, is led toward a deceptively peaceful-looking area at the rear of Birkenau. To the Hungarian Jews, the SS offer a final, cruel comfort. They are told they are heading to the baths to be disinfected before entering the camp. By May 1944, the machinery of Auschwitz has reached its peak. The Commandant Rudolf Haas has returned specifically to oversee the Hungarian action. He has optimized the killing process to a degree of terrifying efficiency that the world has never seen. The new railway tracks now lead directly to the crematoria, cutting down the processing time by hours. As the Hungarian families enter the underground undressing rooms, they see numbered pegs on the walls. They are told to remember their numbers so they can find their clothes after the shower. It is a masterpiece of psychological warfare designed to prevent panic. If they believe they are returning, they will not fight. But as the heavy steel doors groan shut, the pretense vanishes. Above, on the manicured lawns of crematoria, SS men wearing gas masks open canisters of Zyklon B, a pesticide. They drop the pellets through small hatches in the roof. Down below, the silence is replaced by a sound that survivors would later describe as a low, guttural roar, the sound of hundreds of people realizing the truth at the exact same moment. In the darkness, the social structures of Hungary vanish. It is a desperate, vertical struggle for air. Within 20 minutes, the room falls silent. Outside, the sun is still shining on the Polish countryside. The Sonderkommando, Jewish prisoners forced to work in the death houses, begin the grim task of clearing the chamber. They are ordered to remove gold teeth and hair, recycling the victims into the German war economy. The fires in the pits nearby burn day and night, because the ovens cannot keep up with the sheer volume of the Hungarian transports. Between May and July of 1944, over 400,000 Hungarian Jews will be murdered here, a rate of slaughter so high that the ash falls like gray snow on the barracks where Edith now sits, wondering when she will see her mother again. As the sun sets over the electrified fences of Birkenau, Edith and those spared from the initial selection are forced into a world that defies human logic. They have been stripped. The Hungarian women are moved into Sea Lager, a section of the camp that is still under construction. There are no beds, only dirt floors and wooden tiers where they are packed together like cordwood. The hunger is not a dull ache. It is a sharp, predatory animal that begins to consume them from the inside out. But more oppressive than the hunger is the smell, the constant, thick odor of the burning pits that lights up the night sky with a ghastly, flickering orange hue. In this environment, the SS implement a system of social death. They encourage the prisoners to turn on one another for a scrap of moldy bread or a drop of watery soup. Yet, amidst this calculated brutality, a different kind of resistance begins to form. Edith and her sister Magda cling to each other in the darkness of the barracks. They realize that in Auschwitz, your only possession is your mind. To survive the morning appel, the grueling hours-long roll calls where they must stand motionless in the freezing mud, they retreat into their memories. Edith, a trained ballerina, visualizes the stages of Budapest. She dances in her mind to the music of Tchaikovsky, while her physical body withers under the gaze of the towers. However, the Hungarian action is moving so fast that the camp's infrastructure is buckling. The warehouses known as Canada, where the stolen belongings of the Hungarian Jews are sorted, are overflow with mountains of shoes, glasses, and suitcases. It is a grotesque monument to a civilization being dismantled piece by piece. The guards are on edge. The front lines of the war are closing in, and the desperation to finish the final solution before the Russians arrive has turned the camp into a pressure cooker of violence. Every morning, the capos, prisoner overseers, drag bodies from the barracks, and every evening, new transport arrive from the Hungarian provinces to fill the gaps. The cycle is relentless, and the realization begins to dawn on Edith. Survival isn't just about physical strength. It's about enduring the sight of the smoke every single day. July 1944. The frantic pace of the Hungarian action finally begins to slow, not because of change of heart in Berlin, but because the source has been depleted. In just 8 weeks, the vibrant, centuries-old Jewish culture of Hungary has been reduced to ash and sorted piles of luggage. Of the nearly 440,000 people deported to Auschwitz during this period, the vast majority did not survive their first few hours. For Edith Eger, the survival is a waking nightmare. She is selected one evening to perform for Dr. Mengele in the barracks. The man who sent her mother to the gas chamber now demands art. With her eyes closed, imagining she is on the stage of the Budapest Opera House rather than a floor of packed dirt, Edith dances. She dances for her life, for her sister, and for the memory of the woman she lost at the ramp. Mengele tosses her a loaf of bread, a prize for the ballerina, which she shares with her fellow prisoners. It is a tiny, flickering spark of humanity in a place designed to extinguish it, but the end is approaching. By late 1944, the thunder from the east is no longer distant. The Soviet artillery can be heard vibrating through the soil of Poland. The SS, panicked and desperate to hide their crimes, begin the death marches. Edith and Magda are forced out of camp, away from the chimneys, and into the bitter cold of a crumbling Reich. When the gates of the camps were finally liberated in 1945, the world looked at the footage of the Juden ramp and the empty canisters of Zyklon, be with a shock that has never truly faded. The Hungarian transport was a final, most concentrated burst of the Holocaust's industrial cruelty, a tragedy that happened in broad daylight, while the world watched the map of Europe change. Edith Eger survived. She would go on to become a renowned psychologist, dedicating her life to healing the very trauma Auschwitz inflicted. But for hundreds of thousands of others, the shopkeepers from Debrecen, the students from Szeged, the mothers from Munkacs, there was no after. Their legacy remains only in the quiet rustle of the birch trees at Birkenau and the haunting, empty tracks that lead to the heart of the 20th century's greatest darkness. The story of May 1944 is a warning that the thin veneer of civilization can be stripped away in a single afternoon, leaving behind only the smoke, the silence, and the eternal question of how it was allowed to happen.